Lately, I've been feeling a little bit frustrated as I've been creating this podcast and writing the Invincible Career newsletter. And maybe you have been feeling a little frustrated as a listener too. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about some big changes that are coming and how I'm going to refocus the Invincible Career podcast to be more about professional development and what you've asked for the most. This is Invincible Career, and I'm Larry Cornett. So there's a little more information in the links that I think will be useful in the newsletter that is tied to this podcast. This is at newsletter.invinciblecareer.com. Big changes for this newsletter and podcast, issue 386. For a while now, I've been feeling like I've been pulled in different directions as I write the newsletter and record this podcast and figure out which episodes I want to share with you. And that's why it's been a little bit of a break between episodes, because I've been making a decision and building a bunch of new websites and launching some new newsletters, and then the work that goes into launching some new shows, some new podcasts. So the primary focus of Invincible Career has been on professional development, which totally makes sense. And that's to help you get ahead in your career, get ahead at work, get promoted, get a raise, explore leadership, management, if that's something you're interested in. If you have to, find a new job, how to navigate a layoff or getting fired, how to manage workplace issues, dealing with a challenging boss or toxic coworkers, lots of stuff. I've been writing this for many, many years. There are almost 400 episodes and editions of this. However, I also know how important personal development is, and how much it affects your working life, not just your personal life. Life and work get better when you become more confident, when you can communicate well, when you can do a great job with public speaking and leading meetings, when you can improve your relationships, your working relationships and your relationships with significant others and family. When you build on your natural strengths, and when you find ways to manage your weaknesses, and finally, when you invest in yourself, when you're finding ways to constantly improve yourself. You've probably also noticed that I'm a big fan of entrepreneurship. I don't make any bones about that. I'm not shy about it. I love the idea of building your own business at some point in your life. Obviously, I'm biased because I've done it a few times, but I do think it enables the ultimate freedom and flexibility to live every day on your own terms. Because a huge part of our lives is what we do for a living. However, I have seen that this creates some tension in my listeners and in my readers. I've heard from a few of you. Some of you have asked me to focus more on helping employees be more successful in their careers, people who have a boss, a corporate employer. They don't want to read about entrepreneurship. They don't want to keep hearing about it. They're really not that interested in personal development stuff either. But then on the flip side, other people have asked me and sent me messages asking me to write even more about entrepreneurship and more about how to grow and scale a business, and where do you get ideas and how do you launch it? How should I price my services or my goods? So I'm getting very mixed messages, and I obviously have subscribers who want very different things. And I found it confusing and frustrating to try to satisfy these very different audiences and figure out how much of a balance. When should I talk about jobs? When should I talk about starting a business? When should I talk about things that I think are important for personal development? And I still want to write about all of those things. I'm passionate about all of it. And I still want to create podcast episodes to talk about all of it. But it's not fair to you as a listener to have to hear things that you really aren't interested in and things you didn't think you were subscribing to. So I've decided to separate my writing topics and my podcast topics and my passions into 3 separate newsletters and podcast. One is Invincible Career. So that's what you're listening to right now. That's also the newsletter at newsletter.invinciblecareer.com. I will continue to focus on professional development and double down on that. Be more focused on professional development and give you more of what you want as someone navigating a career in the world of corporate employment. People who want jobs and want to do well at work, get ahead, make more money. I am creating a new podcast and newsletter called Invincible Life. And I just launched that today. And that is at newsletter.invinciblelife.me. That's .me. All of these are linked in the newsletter article that's associated with this podcast episode. So if you go to newsletter.invinciblecareer.com, this is big changes for this newsletter and podcast, issue 386. So Invincible Life is focused on personal development instead of professional development. And I'm aware there's some overlap. There will be some things I talk about that cover both areas and probably will be published in both newsletters and podcast. But it's all about personal development and helping you live your best life. It will also be where I share the remaining draft chapters of my book this year. That's titled Building the Invincible You. It's kind of a placeholder title. I need to talk to an editor and publisher. But I've realized as I'm writing this, I think this is chapter 10 that I just released today, and I published that to Invincible Life. It's not just about career, because I think your life isn't just about your job. And the life that we have now, probably more than ever, is a work-life blend. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about in the book, and I'm already writing about in the book, about making life plans and creating a strategy to get where you want to go and creating habits and taking care of yourself along the way and being happy and healthy. You know, it's about personal development too, not just professional development. And so because of that, and because it is, I would say, leaning more on your life and having a great life, I've decided I'll share the rest of those chapters in the Invincible Life newsletter and podcast. And then finally, the third newsletter and new podcast is Invincible Solopreneurs. And that's focused on entrepreneurship. And I've talked about this before. I've been talking about the community and courses that I'll be launching later this year, and I'm building that out. It's all about solopreneurship. And so this is a companion newsletter and podcast to those courses and the community. And it's for people that do dream of starting their own business someday, of being their own boss someday. And I know that's not all of you, but it is some of you. And I've already seen a number of people subscribe to that today because I announced that today as well. And that is at newsletter.invinciblesolopreneurs.com. Again, this is linked in the Invincible Career newsletter. So if you do dream of escaping the 9-to-5 world, quitting your job, building your own business someday, you should check it out. And that's Invincible Solopreneurs. So that's 3 separate newsletters and podcasts, very much divided by my passions and what I like to write about around professional development versus personal development versus entrepreneurship. And there, as I said, there will be some overlap. I know that some of the topics will apply in every single one of those areas, but there will be things unique to each one, so I won't bore the folks that don't want to hear about it. So you can subscribe to each of those. If you're already subscribed to Invincible Career and the podcast, and that's what you want, then you're good to go. If you're interested in continuing to read the draft chapters of my book and you are interested in personal development, then check out Invincible Life and subscribe to that. And if you're interested in entrepreneurship or solopreneurship, check out Invincible Solopreneurs and subscribe to that. And you don't have to worry about getting 3 times the email. You don't want to get 3x the email if you decide to subscribe to all of them, because the way that I'm making this possible is because I can't do 3x the work either, is that each newsletter and podcast episode will come out once a month. So the public version of the newsletter and the podcast will be released once a month. So each week there'll be something released, but it'll be for one of the 3. And there's something else I'm working on that's kind of a stealth project in the background. Now, if you are a premium subscriber to Invincible Career, so you have upgraded your newsletter subscription and you've joined the community and the office hours every Monday, there's no change. I will still be publishing the premium version of the Invincible Career newsletter, and it has private information associated with that, so that doesn't go out in a public podcast. That still comes out every Monday, and it has challenges and exercises every week that are based on monthly themes throughout the year. So it kind of builds up over the year to help you take your professional development and your career to the next level. So no change there. You'll still receive that every week. But yeah, this version that I just sent out will be the last time that I share a book chapter with Invincible Career. And that was, I think, chapter 10, Living and Working Intentionally. And it's a lot about building the daily habits and scheduling the activities you need to do every day and every week to execute your plan that's going to help you achieve your goals for the year. Because it's almost impossible to make a plan work and to achieve goals if you don't make changes in your daily life to make time for it. And it's not magic. You can't add more hours to the day. So I talk a lot in this chapter about how do you establish new habits, good habits that you want, and how do you eliminate bad habits to make room for the good habits. How do you protect your time and use your calendar as a tool to do that, so that you essentially pay yourself first. And by pay yourself, I mean you give yourself time, because you're more important than your employer, your colleagues, your boss, even your friends. You have to live with you. This is your life. And if you want to make the most of it, you've got to make time to work on the things that matter most to you. So this is all about living and working much more intentionally instead of dreaming about what you want, actually making progress. And I share some stuff from James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits. I share some stuff from BJ Fogg, who has a tiny habits model. They're fascinating. And I think it's a great way to think about how small incremental improvements can add up over time to be pretty amazing. And it's the only way I've been able to write this book that I've been working on. I've had to carve out a little bit of time every day and every week and do things like time blocking and day theming to get the book written. Otherwise, I would keep working on it for years like I have been and never get it out. So anyway, that's in the Invincible Life newsletter. I got published today, this morning, if you want to read that book chapter. But that's it. The big change I would say for you as a listener to Invincible Career is that these podcast episodes, and I'll start doing the interviews with guests again, but much more focused now. So I won't be interviewing entrepreneurs, for example. Much more focused on career growth and professional development. It'll be coming out once a month. And if you want to still get the weekly engagement, that's the premium subscription. But I listened, I heard, I realized it was fragmenting the experience a little too much for folks. And so I'm going to refocus this on professional development career, which, it started out that way. But if you have any thoughts, you can always reach out to me, share your thoughts. If you have any questions, if you have topic ideas, things like that, you can find me if you go to newsletter.invinciblecareer.com, leave a comment, send me a message. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Cornett, Cornett, and send me a message there. You can follow me there. But I appreciate you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a subscriber to the podcast. And I want to refocus this and make it better for you. So thanks again. Until next time, I wish you the best of luck in becoming an opportunity magnet for the best things in life.